The crystal champagne flutes caught the light from the country club's chandelier as Dad raised his glass to celebrate his promotion to regional sales director, a position he'd achieved through connections at Metropolitan General Hospital, where Mom worked as chief administrator and my upcoming spinal surgery was being dismissed as unnecessary drama. To 40 years of hard work paying off, Dad announced to the assembled crowd of colleagues, family, and hospital board members. Sometimes persistence is the only medicine you need. The irony wasn't lost on me as I shifted carefully in my chair, managing the chronic pain that had led to my secret partnership with Johns Hopkins Neurosurgery and 3 other major medical centers. The same pain that Mom had been attributing to attention-seeking behavior for the past 8 months while I coordinated the largest healthcare acquisition deal in the region's history. Martin's success proves that dedication always wins, Mom declared, her voice carrying the particular authority she'd perfected during 15 years of hospital administration. Unlike some people who look for shortcuts and easy solutions to life's challenges. Easy solutions. Like the emergency spinal decompression surgery scheduled for next Tuesday. Surgery that 3 neurosurgeons had deemed critical after reviewing MRI scans showing severe nerve compression that could result in permanent paralysis if left untreated. Speaking of shortcuts, my sister Amanda chimed in, her wine glass reflecting the satisfied smile she wore when delivering family observations. Riley's been doctor shopping again. Another surgeon wants to do some expensive procedure. Doctor shopping. Between Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic, where I consulted as both patient and the anonymous benefactor whose $50 million donation had funded their new neurosurgery wing. But explaining my dual role would complicate the carefully maintained fiction of my modest lifestyle. I've told Riley repeatedly, Mom announced to the gathered hospital colleagues, that chronic pain is often psychological. Surgery should be a last resort, not a first response to discomfort. Psychological pain. From compressed nerve roots that had shown progressive deterioration on imaging studies conducted by some of the world's leading neurological specialists. The same specialists who'd been treating patients with equipment I'd funded through my healthcare investment portfolio. Riley's always been dramatic about minor health issues, Dad added, apparently providing context for colleagues who might question his daughter's medical situation. We've learned that some people need tough love instead of constant medical attention. Tough love. While I coordinated acquisition negotiations for Metropolitan General Hospital through shell companies that would give me controlling interest in Mom's workplace by Thursday morning. The irony of her employer being purchased by the daughter she considered medically fragile felt particularly satisfying. The problem with people like Riley, Uncle Stephen observed, consulting his scotch like a crystal ball revealing family truths, is they want medical explanations for normal life stress. Normal life stress. That had caused measurable spinal cord compression requiring immediate surgical intervention to prevent permanent neurological damage. But explaining the neurosurgery of nerve conduction to people convinced of my psychological deficiency seemed pointless. Modern medicine enables hypochondriacs, Mom declared with the professional authority of someone who'd spent decades in healthcare administration. Too many doctors order expensive tests instead of addressing underlying psychological issues. Expensive tests. Like the comprehensive imaging series that had revealed the rare spinal abnormality that was now the subject of a case study being published in the Journal of Neurosurgery, featuring my condition as an example of how early intervention could prevent catastrophic neurological outcomes. Riley needs to accept that not everything requires surgery, Amanda added helpfully, apparently having completed medical school during her marketing career. Some people just have lower pain tolerance. Pain tolerance. 4 nerve compression that measured 8.7 millimeters on standardized imaging. Compression that would cause excruciating pain in any human nervous system regardless of psychological resilience or positive thinking. We've arranged for Riley to see a psychiatrist instead, Mom announced to her hospital colleagues, her voice carrying that particular satisfaction administrators feel when solving institutional problems. Address the root cause instead of enabling surgical fantasies. Surgical fantasies. Scheduled for Tuesday morning at 7 a.m., to be performed by Dr. Margaret Chin, Chief of Neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins, using equipment I'd personally funded through charitable foundations Mom had never heard of. Hold up. The celebration continued with testimonials about Dad's professional achievements, each comment deepening the irony of my family's medical dismissal while I secretly controlled the healthcare infrastructure surrounding their lives. Martin's success at Metropolitan General has been extraordinary, Dr. Patricia Wilson announced, apparently unaware that her hospital's ownership structure was about to change dramatically. His pharmaceutical sales relationships have improved our supply chain efficiency significantly. Supply chain efficiency. Managed through contracts I'd negotiated as majority shareholder of 3 pharmaceutical distribution companies that supplied Metropolitan General's medication needs. Dad's success was more interconnected with my business network than he'd ever imagined. The hospital board values Martin's insights into medical device procurement, another colleague added, consulting remarks that would seem ironic within 72 hours. His industry connections have saved us millions in equipment costs. Equipment cost. Reduced through bulk purchasing agreements I'd arranged with manufacturers while acquiring controlling interests in medical device companies that supplied Metropolitan General's surgical suites. My family's professional success was entirely dependent on business relationships they didn't know existed. Martin's daughter works in some kind of consulting, Dr. Wilson explained to colleagues who'd asked about my quiet presence at the family celebration. Nothing medical related, of course. Nothing medical related. Except for serving on the boards of directors for 4 major hospitals, advising the Department of Health and Human Services on healthcare policy, and managing investment portfolios worth $2.8 billion focused exclusively on medical technology advancement. Riley's health obsessions have been challenging for the family, Mom added, apparently providing context for my subdued appearance. Constant medical appointments, endless complaints about pain that doesn't show up on basic tests. Basic tests, like X-rays and standard MRIs that had missed the rare spinal abnormality finally detected through specialized imaging techniques available only at major research centers I'd helped fund through strategic donations and equipment grants. The problem with chronic pain claims, Dad continued, settling into his expertise about conditions he'd never experienced, is they're usually manifestations of deeper psychological issues. Psychological issues. While my spine underwent measurable structural changes that would require titanium hardware implants to prevent permanent paralysis, hardware manufactured by companies in my investment portfolio and installed using techniques I'd helped fund through research grants. Riley should consider a career change, Uncle Stephen suggested helpfully, apparently having analyzed my professional situation during cocktail hour. Something less stressful than whatever computer work she does. Computer work. Managing healthcare acquisitions worth hundreds of millions, advising hospital systems on operational efficiency, and coordinating research funding that advanced medical treatments for conditions my family considered imaginary. We're hoping the psychiatrist can help Riley accept reality, Mom declared with the particular satisfaction healthcare administrators feel when solving complex problems through simple solutions. Some people need professional help learning that minor discomfort doesn't require major medical intervention. Minor discomfort. From nerve compression that had begun affecting motor function in my left leg, creating measurable weakness that would progress to complete paralysis without immediate surgical decompression. The key is not enabling attention-seeking behavior, Amanda added, apparently having developed expertise in behavioral psychology during her career in social media marketing. Sometimes family members need tough love instead of constant medical validation. Medical validation. From neurosurgeons whose research I'd funded, using equipment I'd purchased in facilities I'd helped design, treating conditions I understood better than most medical professionals because my investment portfolio required comprehensive knowledge of treatment protocols and outcomes. Revelation. The revelation came through Dr. Elizabeth Hartford, CEO of Hartford Healthcare Systems, who entered the country club's main dining room flanked by legal counsel and carrying documents that would transform the evening permanently. Mr. Morrison, she announced, her voice cutting through the celebration like a surgical laser, we need to discuss the ownership changes at Metropolitan General Hospital. The room fell silent except for the soft clinking of champagne flutes being set down by colleagues who sensed that corporate announcements rarely interrupted family celebrations with good news. Dad's promotional speech froze mid-sentence, his wine glass suspended like a crystal monument to interrupted success. According to legal filings completed this afternoon, Dr. Hartford continued, consulting documents that appeared to carry significant authority, Metropolitan General has been acquired by Chin Medical Holdings. Mom's face went through several color changes, settling on a shade that matched the country club's expensive wallpaper. The new majority owner, Dr. Hartford explained to the assembled hospital colleagues, has requested immediate administrative changes, including the termination of several key personnel. The room's temperature seemed to drop as medical professionals began calculating the implications of unexpected ownership transfers. Dr. Morrison, Dr. Hartford said, turning to Mom directly, "Your position as chief administrator has been eliminated effective immediately. Security will collect your access credentials tonight." Mom's champagne flute slipped from her fingers, creating a crystalline explosion that echoed through the suddenly quiet dining room. The new owner, Dr. Hartford continued, apparently working from comprehensive instructions, has expressed particular concern about administrative decisions that have compromised patient care quality. The documentation spread across our dinner table revealed the scope of the acquisition. Purchase agreements, board resolutions, personnel decisions, all bearing my signature as Chief Executive Officer of Chin Medical Holdings. The specific concern, Dr. Hartford noted, consulting her detailed briefing, involves the chief administrator's daughter, whose legitimate medical needs have been systematically dismissed despite clear neurological evidence requiring immediate surgical intervention. Uncle Stephen was staring at the corporate documents as if they were written in ancient Sanskrit. Riley Chin, Dr. Hartford announced, apparently prepared to complete the evening's educational transformation, is the majority owner of Metropolitan General Hospital, along with controlling interests in 3 other regional medical centers. The irony was exquisite. The daughter whose medical needs had been dismissed as attention-seeking owned the hospital where those dismissals had originated. Ms. Chen's upcoming spinal surgery, Dr. Hartford continued, will be performed at Johns Hopkins, where she serves on the board of directors and has funded the neurosurgery department's equipment acquisitions. Dad found his voice first, though it emerged as barely more than a whisper. "Riley, you own the hospital?" "4 hospitals," Dr. Hartford corrected helpfully. "Plus the medical device companies that supply surgical equipment, pharmaceutical distribution networks, and research foundations that fund neurological treatment advancement." Resolution. The aftermath unfolded with the systematic precision of a hostile corporate takeover. Mom's 15 years of hospital administration ended when security collected her access badges, parking permits, and administrative passwords. Her expertise in dismissing patient concerns proved less valuable in the competitive healthcare job market. Dad's pharmaceutical sales position became complicated when his primary client relationship involved his daughter's companies, and his promotion celebration had included publicly dismissing the medical needs of his new employer's majority owner. Amanda's social media marketing career stalled when colleagues learned she'd spent months publicly mocking a sister whose healthcare investments influenced medical device advertising across 3 states. Professional networks proved surprisingly interconnected when reputation mattered. The spinal surgery proceeded as scheduled at Johns Hopkins, performed using equipment I'd funded in facilities I'd helped design, by surgeons whose research I'd supported for years while my family attributed my symptoms to psychological weakness. I never attended another family celebration. The penthouse at Johns Hopkins executive residence provided better company than people who'd confused medical gaslighting with tough love. The most satisfying moment came when Mom called from her studio apartment, where she'd moved after losing both her administrative position and the family home whose mortgage had been subsidized by my healthcare profits. "Riley, I didn't understand that you were actually successful." Her voice carried a humility that had been absent during months of medical dismissal. Through my recovery suite's windows, Baltimore's medical district stretched like a circuit board of healing possibilities I'd helped create. "I was always successful," I replied quietly, reviewing post-surgical imaging that showed successful nerve decompression. "You just preferred diagnosing my success as attention-seeking behavior." The silence stretched between us, heavy with months of dismissed symptoms and delayed treatment. "My hospital investments continue advancing patient care," I added before disconnecting, "for families who take medical needs seriously instead of attributing them to psychological deficiency." Some lessons in medical humility, like nerve decompression, couldn't be reversed through belated recognition or corporate embarrassment. Metropolitan General Hospital continued operating under new management that prioritized patient advocacy over administrative convenience, while Mom learned that healthcare authority required medical competence rather than family hierarchy. My contributions to neurological medicine remained internationally recognized, regardless of my family's belated understanding that spinal cord compression operated independently of psychological theories about attention-seeking behavior. The hospital signs bearing my name continued illuminating Baltimore's skyline, reminding former administrators that medical expertise required listening to patients rather than dismissing their symptoms based on family dynamics. Some conditions, like professional credibility, required careful maintenance and couldn't survive repeated diagnostic failures disguised as administrative efficiency.